Hello, Year 9. So this is your live theatre evaluation part 2, which is about lighting. So just a quick recap on what we looked at last time. We were learning how to prepare some detailed live theatre notes. One of the first things that we looked at was the production elements of every production. That includes lighting, acting, sound, costume, sets, hair, makeup. And I discussed that we were only going to be looking at two production elements, which was acting and lighting. We spoke about a lot of drama terminology and how to use those. I provided you with the big sheet which has all of the terminology on it that you should need, along with the adjective banks. Those may come in useful for today's lesson as well. We then, a little bit later on in the lesson, has a little look at some video clips from the recorded version of Blood Brothers, and then I talked you through some of the vocal acting skills and the physical acting skills that they used in there. So the learning objective today then is very similar to the learning objective that we had last time, which is to learn how to prepare detailed live theatre notes about lighting for an examination. By the end of this lesson, I should understand lighting terminology and how to use it when writing about live theatre, identify how lighting has been used within a production, and be able to prepare detailed notes about a live theatre production. So we're going to first of all talk about lighting terminology, and you will see that I've asked you to write notes about some of the words that we're about to talk about. You should be doing that as you watch the video. So the first one is intensity. Intensity means how bright or how dim something is. So you could have a really high bright intensity or a medium intensity, or you could have a low intensity. So it's how bright or how dim a particular light is. The second thing is color, and in drama, when we're talking about lighting, we usually change the color of a light by using a gel. And now if you look at the picture that has all the little black frames with the different colors in it, the black part is called a frame, and that's what you put the lighting gel in. The lighting gel's almost like a bit of cling film, but a thicker version of it that you can see through. So it's a transparent piece of film that you put in front of the lights, and you can see various lights within the pictures that have these gels in front of them. You might be seeing in my classroom, I regularly use gels. I usually have some red lights, some green lights, and some blue lights up on my rig. So this is what we'd call a wash. This is a blue wash. This is on our stage, and it's covering the full length of the stage. When we talk about a wash, it's not about one little area of the stage that has that colour. It's about the whole area. So this is a blue wash. If I was to change the gel in these lights to green, I could create a green wash. And if I was to take the gel away, I would have a white wash. We're going to get onto colour a little bit later in a second, but wash is a really important word for you to know as well. So colour then, there's lots of different meanings behind colour and how you can use it. White, I would say, is probably the most interesting colour to use, because you could say on stage that you have plenty of white light, but the way and the shade in which you use it is very, very different. So white, we could talk projects pure youth, innocence. White's usually quite cold and a bit clinical. Clinical's like clean, like hospital feel. Grey is boring, it's practical, it's old age, and it's sadness as well. You can get a grey light, usually like in a Western movie, would be quite a good way to use it. Brown is earth, dirty, outdoors, nature. Pink, love, very feminine. Romance. You might see for a lot of love scenes, they might use a pink. If it's quite a flirty love scene, it's pink. If it's kind of heartfelt, it's usually red. Blue is a cold atmosphere, sadness, sometimes a calm atmosphere. It can also portray temperature. So if you were out on a lake, maybe in a scene, they might use blue. Reminds us of sky and water. Green is outdoors, it's nature, envy. That's a very nice way to use green there. Jealousy, environment, and youth. Now, yellow and orange are quite are really used a lot within drama. Now, do you remember I was talking about a wash a minute ago? And I said you could have a blue wash or a white wash. Um, if you were to put a yellow or orangey gel in the light, the stage often wouldn't look yellow. It would still kind of be a white wash, but it'd be like a warm amber wash almost. Okay, so this gives us warmth. It's welcome. It's sunrise temperature. It's warm, isn't it? The joy. Red, again, red's very interesting. It's used a lot for power, anger, danger, aggression, love. All of these things to do with colour are really important with lighting. You're going to see as we look at Blood Brothers in a minute how colour is used specifically. A gobo then. So a gobo is a little tiny round disc which is usually metal, which you put inside a profile light and it projects an image onto the floor or onto a screen. You'll see one of the images, you can see lots of different things being projected out of 4 lights onto the floor. On the right hand side you will see some windows being used. Now that's actually in my classroom. That's a gobo that I used within the production Oliver, and you can see the gobo has a very high intensity white light with it. Foggers. Now a fogger is not necessarily a lighting effect, but it is used with lighting. It's used to enhance the lighting. So when you're talking about lighting, you can talk about how a fogger is used in relation to the lighting. So there's 3 main ways that it's kind of used. The fog, which is invisible to the audience and it fills the space. Haze is a slightly thinner version of the fog. It's usually watered down a little bit, which is invisible, fills the space, make the light beams visible. You can see in the second image in the middle. And dry ice. Dry ice is a type of fog that you can use, which is visible, stays low to the ground. So if you were doing a scene maybe on a frozen lake, dry ice would probably be quite a good thing to use to give you that effect. So there are various things that a lighting designer needs to consider. So when I'm designing the lighting for our school productions, there are some things that I quite often consider. So one of them is what needs to be seen on stage. Do I need to light the whole stage or do I just need to light a section? What lanterns, positions and gels would you use to enhance the mood and atmosphere? Now a lantern, anytime I talk about a lantern means light. So any light in the theatre, like on the ceiling of my classroom, we would call those lanterns. The position is the position that I put those lanterns in on the rig. And the gel, we've already spoken, is the see-through piece of film that's usually coloured. Where should the audience's attention be directed? So you can use lighting to direct the audience's attention. You might light one particular character instead of lighting the whole stage to draw the audience's attention to that particular moment. What is the time of day? So the lighting should reflect the time of day. If it's early in the morning, what type of lighting are you going to use? Equally, if it's at midnight, what type of lighting are you going to use on the stage? Because you couldn't use black because the audience would be able to see anything. So how would you light that time of day? Where is the scene set? If the scene was set in the desert, I'm sure you'd have a very different type of lighting as opposed to it being set in a cave. What sources of light is there in the scene? This is talking about natural light. Is there any natural light in the scene? Like I just gave you the example of the desert or the cave. That's what I'm talking about there. What colours should be used and why? So if I'm using a green light, I need to know why I'm using that. If I'm using a red light, I need to know why I'm using that. And how intense or how bright or dim should these lights be? So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of how lighting is used. So this is a picture from Oliver that we did in the school production. This is a very, very low intensity whitewash. We're also using in this particular image a gobo. The intensity of the gobo is bright white. It's a high intensity projection of some windows onto the back curtain there. Another example would be a very low intensity blue wash with a white spotlight. Now, I'm a bit unsure who was doing the spotlight that day, but you can see the spotlight that I've just circled there. It should have been on the main character, being Fagin. But we're going to ignore that as a mistake for now. But had that have been on Fagin, that's directing the audience's attention where I wanted the audience to focus. Also, that colour of blue is giving that kind of cold atmosphere. So now we've spoken about some of the keywords. You can see the keywords to the right of the screen: intensity, colour, gobo, foggers. Now, some of the things I haven't spoken about is interaction with sets, interaction with actors, and interaction with costume. We'll talk about those as we go. So we're now moving on to the second key success criteria, which is to identify how lighting has been used in production and be able to prepare detailed notes about a live theatre production. Again, we're going to speak about 3 different moments. Moment 1, 2, I've done for you, and moment 3 if you're doing yourself. Within moment 1 and moment 2, you can see that I've given you my notes. You do not need to write anything other than what I've written. However, when I talk about this in a minute, I may say things that I've not necessarily written on the piece of paper that I've given you. So you only have to write things if you want to.
And did you never hear of the mother so cruel there's a stone in place of her
heart? So moment 1 is the opening moments of the play, very opening moments when the
come judge for yourselves how she came to play this part.
Leading into the first song, Mrs. Johnson. So we're going to watch this again.
Husband, you know the sort of chap. I met him at a dance and now we came on with the chat.
I think you're a bleeding cracket.
He said me eyes were deep blue pools, me skin as soft as snow. He told me I was sexier than Marilyn Monroe. And we went dancing, and we went dancing. Then of course I found that I was 6 weeks overdue. What? Got married at the registry, and then we had a do. We all had canny salmon sandwiches, and how the ale did flow. They said the bride was lovelier than Marilyn Monroe.
And we went dancing. And we went dancing.
Then the baby came along, we called him
Darren Wade.
Then 3 months on, I found that I was in the club again. Shit. And the
So we're going to leave that clip there. So now I'm going to talk about the notes, and I definitely will say things that I've not written because as I was watching it again for probably about the 5th time just now with you, I noticed something that I hadn't noticed previously that I will talk about. So in this moment, the play starts with a blackout. The stage is filled with low intensity fog. The fog is used to create a sense of mystery and wonder. As the narrator enters the stage, he is standing behind a gauze. Now, I'm going to show you what a gauze is now. This is a gauze. It's a very, very thin piece of cloth which is draped down. You might see at the end, just before Mrs. Johnson comes on and starts singing, that it's lifted off the stage. A gauze is used for various reasons in theatre, but the clever thing about it is when you put the lighting in front of the gauze, so the side that the person with the yellow jacket is standing on, you can't see what's happening behind it. However, when you light behind the gauze, you can see all the way through it. So it's a very, very thin, almost mesh-like piece of material. And that was used in this to give that idea that we're slightly removed from the action that was happening. So as the narrator enters the stage, he is standing behind a gauze, which again adds to that mystery and wonder, and is almost as if he's not present at the time. The lighting is very low intensity blue wash with a low intensity spotlight on the narrator. The blue gives a very cold feeling and foreshadows the mood and atmosphere and the events of the play. Something I noticed just now as we were watching it together is in the background, just slightly behind the narrator, there was a moment where one of the characters got shot, and the lighting designer obviously wanted the audience to notice that because they put a high intensity white spotlight on that action for us to notice. Somehow I didn't notice it the first or second time I watched this. I've just noticed it now, but that is something that's really good just to add into those notes there. As the gauze lifts, the lighting changes to a high intensity warm amber wash. Warm is symbolic of good things and that everything is good at the start of the play. This is a complete contrast to the previous lighting stage that foreshadows this one. So this is, it's all nice and warm, it's happy now. We see Mrs. Johnson dancing around, she gets married, she has some kids. However, when the narrator was on, it's all very cold and mysterious, and we know that there's an air of bad and dark in the atmosphere. Okay? So, moment 2 then. So this moment happens just after Edward had an argument with his mother, Mrs. Loynes, and runs out of the house. The song, Kids Game, starts. We'll watch that together.
I gotcha, I shot ya, and your blood, you know I did. I gotcha, I shot ya.
I stopped it with the Bentley.
Bentley? No, you liar. I got him. I got you, that's where. No, you're lying. But you know that if you cross your fingers, and if you count from 1 to 10, you can get up off the ground again. It doesn't matter, the old thing's just again. Come on! Come on!
My name is Elliot Ness, and lady, here's my card. I'm looking for one Al Capone. Mac, check out the backside, you check out the yard.
But pal, I've told you, I ain't told.
Bang, bang! So, lady, can I use your telephone? Dr. Linda!
Know that if you cross your fingers,
And if you count from 1 to 10, you can get up off the ground again.
it doesn't matter, the old thing's just again.
When I say draw, you better grab that gun and maybe say a little prayer. 'Cause I'm the fastest drawback man you ever saw. Call up your woman, say goodbye to her. 'Cause you know you're going right down there.
Bang! Bang! But you know that if you cross your fingers,
And if you count from 1 to 10,
bang!
you can get up off the ground again.
It doesn't matter, the whole thing's just again. Bang!
Hey, come over here, come over here. Come, yeah. Okay, man, let's get him with the hand grenade.
Let's see him try to counterfeit. He's a hotshot sergeant from the Dark Brigade. He's never been known to miss.
Come on, give Daddy a kiss.
But you know that if you cross your fingers,
And if you count from 1 to 10, you can get up off the ground again.
it doesn't matter, the old thing's just again. Me name's Professor now, and it's for my old He can destroy the hemisphere. I primed it, I've timed it to explode. Unless he lets me out of here. No! Then I suggest you cover up your ears. Boom!
But you know that if you cross your fingers, and if you count from 1 to 10,
You can't
get up off the ground again. It doesn't matter, the old things just again.
Wake up!
The old things just again.
Sammy! Bang! Yes, Dad, you know you are. I got you standing near that car.
When you did, his hand was he's behind his back, his fingers crossed, and so he's not.
So you fuck off! You said the F word, you're going to die. You'll go to hell and there you'll fry. Just like a fish in a chip shop, but only 25 million times harder than that.
Well, I'll use lot swear, so you'll all go to hell with him.
Now we won't, Linda.
Why?
Because when we swear, we cross our fingers. What? I crossed me fingers. No, you danger liar.
Leave him alone.
Why? What's you do about it if we don't?
I'll tell me mother why all the ciggies always disappear when you're in our house. And the half crowns.
Come on, gang. Let's go. We don't want to play with these anyway. They're just kids.
Get out.
Yeah, bang.
No,
Bang.
with you. No,
Bang, come on. Yeah.
Stop it. I hate them. Well, what's up?
Okay, so we're going to leave that moment there. I just want you to think about when you were watching that just a second ago, how you were feeling. Were you feeling that this was a warm and fun song and that it was quite nice to listen to? I just want you to think about how you were feeling for just a second, because I'm going to talk to you about that in a moment. So thinking about how the lighting was used throughout this moment then, it just happens to be a song, but actually it was quite a lot that was going on within the lighting. So throughout this moment, the lighting has several changes which are used to portray the mood and atmosphere of the moment and draw the audience's attention to points of the action. The lighting starts with a medium intensity whitewash. Now remember, we spoke about colours at the beginning, and white actually is a colour of innocence, but it's also quite a cold colour. If I wanted it to be warm, I would probably have an amber wash, but they've actually chosen to use a medium intensity whitewash, which is showing that innocence of the kids within the song, but it's also very, very cold, and we'll get on to the reasons why. So with a small amount of blue light, the white is cold and again foreshadows the story yet to come. Throughout the song, all the kids run about laughing, joking while shooting each other, singing "It's just the game." The audience knows that in the end of the play, it's not just a game and it's very much real life within the play. This is why the feeling is so cold. So actually, it's not really a happy song. It's not really a nice song. They're talking about shooting each other and that it's all just a game if they cross their fingers. But in the end of this story, it's quite sad that we see both Mickey and Edward die when Mickey decides to shoot Edward and then Mickey gets shot by the police. And actually, I don't think there's any coming back from that particular moment. This song is kind of foreshadowing that real seriousness of the adult life and where the play leads to. So at the moments within the song, the lighting interacts with some of the characters by putting them in a tight spotlight to draw the audience's attention to certain moments within the song. For example, a high intensity white spotlight was used on the body at the end of the song until the character gets back up and shows that he's living. Throughout this whole song, the narrator is sat downstage right on a box with a gun in his hands. He is there to foreshadow the unfortunate events that are to come, but the lighting designer has not drawn attention to his presence within the scene. There are also some other lighting effects using that. When they shot people, there were flashes of bright white light, symbolizing the idea of shooting again. Okay. So we now come to the final moment, and this is your chance to talk about the lighting. So at the very beginning of this lesson, I told you some of the things that a lighting designer needed to think about. So your task is now to write your own live theatre notes for moment 3. You've had 2 examples. I gave you example 1 and example 2. Here is a list of things that you should be thinking about. What does the designer intend to be seen on stage in the moment you are about to watch? What gels have they used to enhance the mood and atmosphere? Where should the audience's attention be? What's the time of day? Where is the scene set? What sources of light are there in the scene? When I'm talking about sources of light, remember that's natural light. So if it's in the middle of the day, it might be the sun. If it's in the middle of the night, it might be the moonlight. What colours have been used and why? And how intense, bright or dim, is the lighting? You need to complete moment 3 lighting for your live theatre notes by yourself to demonstrate your understanding.
One of us would
So
argue
together
with you
we're now
on
going
that
to
score.
watch moment 3.
But what we would
you will
question
actually
is
notice
this.
that
Say what you
it's
want.
exactly the same moment that I got you to write about last time. Really have a look at how the lighting is used
taking the pills.
and think about the keywords that I've already spoken about. Don't worry about being
thinking again.
wrong, but you need to give
Right.
me enough information so I can see where
Get her
your
out of here,
thought
Mr. Now.
process is going. So the final moments of the performance where Mickey and Edward are both adults, the audience see Mickey
had to start
enter
thinking
Edward's
again.
office and both of the boys
Eddie, 'cause
are
there was-
dead. So we're going to watch that
There was
moment
one thing
again
left in my
now.
life. Just one thing. Eddie, Linda, and I wanted to keep us so I stopped taking the pills. It was too late, wasn't it? Do you know who told me about you and Linda, Eddie, your mother? She came to the factory I don't know what and she told me. Linda and I are just friends.
Friends, I could kill you.
We were friends, weren't we? Blood brothers, wasn't it? Remember? Then how come you got everything and I got nothing? Hey, Eddie. Friends. I've been thinking again, Eddie. You and Linda were friends, weren't you? When she first got pregnant, does my child belong to you as well as everything else? Does she, Eddie?
No,
Does she?
for God's sake!
Listen, son. I've got armed marksmen with me, but if you do exactly as I say, we won't need to use them, will we? Now listen, Michael. Put down the gun. Just put the gun down, son.
What am I doing, Ed? I thought I was going to shoot you. I can't even do that. I don't even know if the thing's loaded.
Mickey? Mickey, don't shoot us, son!
What's that woman doing?
Get that woman away.
Bam, you get out of here now!
Mickey's your brother! You're his twin brother, and I couldn't afford to keep both of you, and his mom couldn't have kids, and I'm sorry, I agreed to give one of you away. I'm so sorry, Mickey.
You! Why didn't you give me away, eh? I could have been him. I could have been him.
Nobody move. It's all right. It's all over. Just stay where you are.
And do we blame superstition for what came to pass? Or could it be what we the English have come to know as class? Did you ever hear the story of the Johnston twins? As like each other as 2 new pins, how one was kept and one given away. How they were born and they died on the self-same day.
Tell me it's not true. Say it's just a story. Something on the news.
just a show on the radio that we can turn over and start again. That we can turn over, it's only a game. Tell me it's not true. Say I only dreamed it, and morning will come soon. Tell me it's not true. Say you didn't mean it. Say it's just pretend. Say it's just the end of an old movie from years ago. Of an old movie with Marilyn Monroe.
So that's the moment that you need to be writing about. There are many lighting changes in there, and hopefully you can really find it within yourself to analyze the live theatre moments for that. So just to finish off then, on your sheet that I provided you with, you'll see a thumbs up, a thumb to the side, or a thumbs down. I'd like you to just circle the appropriate one so I understand how you feel about your learning. Your learning objective today was to learn how to prepare detailed live theatre notes about lighting for examination. By the end of this lesson, you should understand lighting terminology and how to use it when writing about live theatre. We looked at various keywords at the beginning, that's all drama terminology, and then I gave you some examples of what that would look like within performance. Identify how lighting has been used within a production. I showed you how I used it myself within Oliver at the beginning of this lesson. I then showed you moment 1 and moment 2. Be able to prepare detailed live theatre notes about a production, and you should have done that for moment 3. Okay, please send me over your work as soon as you're done.